Let's go right into it. You're not here so you can hear what literally everybody else has already said about this game. Like, it's great, it's amazing, it's a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. It'll do your taxes for you while you sit around drinking Kool-Aid, contemplating your life choices, thinking to yourself, where did all that time go in your life, only to realize that time is an enigma, and within that enigma, you realize 500 other companies have been trying to copy this game's formula, and they don't even achieve half of what makes this game so special. Then Nintendo realizes, damn, we made a great game, so let's charge 10 extra bucks for the sequel. Then you complain, but you know you're gonna buy it day one, so let's get into what made Nintendo realize they could charge you 10 extra dollars and get away with it, but you know it's worth it and you're gonna buy it. But so will I, and on day one, because this was my first Zelda game and Nintendo has me hooked. I know half of you just threw up hearing that this was my first Zelda game, but this game made me want to delve into this world more and more, and made me want to revisit the older games, and I ended up doing it, and turned me into a fan, something a lot of other games, especially newer ones, can't accomplish nowadays. So let's find out why this game still holds up today. This is The Legend of Zelda, $10 less. You start off waking up in a pool of blue liquid, which I assume is water, but I live near a power station, so I forgot what clean water looks like. After you wake up half naked, you get an Etch-a-Sketch followed by some clothes, but you think to yourself, Link looking kinda good in those undies, so I'm not gonna equip the clothes. Then you streak out into the world and you're greeted by the Wild Breath and the Ghost King of Hyrule, but he doesn't tell you he's a ghost yet. After he teaches you how to play the game and what an Etch-a-Sketch does, you try a few dungeons, and then you realize they're much shorter this time and don't make my head hurt. Then prologue's over, you get a glider, jump out the window, speedrun that shit, and beat Ganon 10 out of 10. There's some stuff in between, so I guess we can go over that. Speedruns aside, the fact that you can play and experience the events in this game in any order you want and in any time frame you want is a true testament to how far this franchise has come. I went back and played Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and A Link Between Worlds after playing this game, and it just shows how masterful Nintendo can be when creating a new experience for their IPs without throwing away what made it special. Fuck, okay, sometimes they don't throw away what made it special. But how did Nintendo convert someone like me, a non-believer in Zelda, into now a Zelda fan? It's the story. The story is always something Nintendo gets a lot of flack for when focusing on, and hell, I'm one of those people that says that about Nintendo, but I loved this game's story. From what I've seen of Zelda growing up, it's just Link spawns in, does his shit, and kills Ganon, that's the end. Ganon is usually an up-and-coming threat, or he's already a big established threat, and Link's the underdog who has to go and take him out and save everyone. But in this game, you get to see how Ganon ruined Hyrule, and what he did to the kingdom, and how he killed your friends, and the pain and suffering Zelda has felt since it happened, and the helplessness of Link in that moment. That engages you and makes you want to kill this bastard for everything he did, and it drives you to see this adventure to the end. Without that drive, this game doesn't work. It encourages you to explore and experience what other natives of Hyrule are doing to cope with, let's call it, the Ganon effect, with the major ones being the Rito, the Gerudo, the Zora, and the Goron. Remember the friends being killed I brought up earlier? Well, each of these races had a champion who would command a divine beast, which are pretty much just giant kaiju that Ganon now controls, with each having a blight boss. These champions who used to man these Megazords were Revali, Urbosa, Daruk, and Mipha. Link didn't need one because he's a Chad like that. All these characters are likable in my opinion and have personality traits I'm sure you've seen before in other media, but they're still done really well here. And it just makes you want to listen to that one song heard on repeat, knowing these guys aren't around to help you anymore since, you know, they're dead. First there was Urbosa. She's the strong big sister who only has everyone's best interest in mind and tries to make you share and play nice with the other kids. Daruk is the big, strong, lovable teddy bear that you admire and want to hug, but if you went through with that hug and he hugged you, he'd probably kill you. Mipha is Fish Hinata. And finally Revali, the obvious best champion in the game.
Oops, it seems that I've been tapped to merely assist you. All because you happen to have that little darkness-sealing sword on your back. I mean, it's just asinine.
He's such a bitch.
In the game, he's the arrogant rival who believes he should be the MC and has a soft side that he doesn't like to show, but when he does, it gets you right in the feels. And this personality and design has never been done before ever on a Nintendo character. I have no idea what you're talking about, shut up. Now the character whose name is in the title, Zelda. Zelda pretty much doubts her own ability to wield a power that would help to stop Ganon, so she tries to avoid going to church and constantly praying. Instead, she takes up her time doing other stuff that could help to stop Ganon, like eating frogs, but her parents tell her no, and that makes Zelda the sad. My kid self vibes with this on so many levels. Despite that self-doubt though, Zelda tries her best and you can tell she still really cares for her father even if they don't see eye to eye, and for all her friends and the people of Hyrule, and that makes it so much more heart-wrenching watching Zelda flee her kingdom after Ganon takes over, and she breaks down crying to Link over everyone's demise. Did I mention I fucking hate Ganon? And you experience all these story elements through memories Link can gather throughout the world. Other than the dead guys though and the princess trapped in some space-time paradox thing, you also have the successors to the champions with Riju, Yunobo, Sidon, and Teba. All four are likable and all help you in some way, shape, or form on your journey, but out of these characters, my favorite has to be Sidon. He's just the best with being a charismatic goofball and has a serious side, hating that he couldn't do anything to save his sister Mipha, so it makes him more complex. Then there's also Grandma Impa, and then Paya, who people do any % get laid speedruns on. I have no idea how or why, but I'm sure Zelda's not a fan of those speedruns, I'm guessing. Now the fun stuff. One thing all these characters have in common, except Link, that seems to divide people and really piss off others, is that these characters are, well, voiced.
Oh man, what am I gonna do? Monsters! They're here! They found me! Help!
Now, to the people who are like me, you'd think voice acting in a game is pretty standard, right? Like, who would care? Well, apparently lots of people. I kinda get the argument don't fix what isn't broken, and yes, you can tell a story without talking, and sometimes a scene can be way more powerful without the use of words, but in this case, fuck that shit. I'm just joking, kinda. But seriously though, at the same time, the way I see it is the franchise is evolving and becoming more and more cinematic and story driven, and when you have these grand epic stories that are driven with giant spectacles and deep world building to enthrall you even more, voice acting on these characters can be used to effectively deepen that immersion. I mean, I enjoy gibberish dialogue as much as the next guy, but I want these games to evolve with their dialogue, otherwise we'd be stuck with And I respect Nintendo even if they don't continue with voice acting in the future Zelda games, for at least trying something new and adding that in, unlike another franchise that I can think of that would benefit greatly from voice acting but are creatively bankrupt. Keeping on the divisive train we're on, the dungeons are next. This being my first Zelda game, I enjoyed the dungeons. They were short, sweet, and to the point. And the Divine Beasts were longer with more stuff to do, but they didn't outstay their welcome. Then after my blissfully ignorant ass thought that these were great dungeons, I took to the internet for other people's opinions. And let's just say those people had very different opinions than I had on these dungeons. Heck, even some of my family and friends who are huge Zelda fans for years thought the same thing as the people I was reading. Basically, the common complaint came down to the dungeons were too easy and they were too short. Basically, they were baby dungeons. And after going back and playing Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, I do get the complaint, because even though some of those dungeons were too long for my liking, I still really enjoyed some, one of my favorites being the Light Temple in Twilight Princess. I loved using that giant statue to just bust up shit in that dungeon. But I can only really speak to this from my own personal viewpoint, and you're talking to a guy whose favorite Nintendo franchise is Star Fox, where you are continuously moving forward and if anything is in your way, you just blow it the fuck up. Joking aside, I'm the type of person who loves keeping momentum going in a game. I'm okay with a slower moment here and there in the gameplay, but overall I want to be able to play the game without sitting there for hours thinking, what the hell do I do to progress? And that's not me saying that my way of thinking is right, it's just how I personally like my gaming experiences to be. On to Big Boy Ganon boss fight now. This creepy bastard is what it's all been about. When you finally get to him after climbing Mount Hyrule Castle, you get to the main room, and this is where your gameplay decisions affect the fight with him. Depending on how you decided to play the game, you will have to either fight the Blights before Ganon, or if you already beat some of them or all of the Blights, then all you have left is Ganon himself. His boss fight is pretty straightforward, and if you helped out the friendly ghosts along the way, then they use Hyper Beam and it's super effective, leaving him much easier for Link to kill, and then Link gets to say, he did it, no help, MVP. Then in the second phase, you ride Marvin the tap dancing horse, and then you use a light bow and finish it once and for all. And there you have it, congratulations, you have now saved Hyrule. Now you and Zelda can be free and have a great time together eating frogs until your sequel comes out. And then when the sequel does come out, I'm sure you'll have to do this all over again, but it's gonna be another 10 out of 10 experience, I'm sure. This game managed to accomplish so much in terms of story, characters, and gameplay, and it had a profound effect on me, and it's an experience I'll never forget, and I'm proud to say that this was my first Zelda game. I and so many others look forward to the new innovations and ideas you have for the future of this beloved franchise. So again, thank you, Nintendo. Thank you for this experience, thank you for these characters, and thank you most of all for making me a Zelda fan. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what your first Zelda game was and how you experienced the franchise for the first time. I'd love to know, so just leave that down in the comments and I'll give that a read. I also want to thank you guys for watching again. This is my first video for YouTube, and I hope it can be the first of many. I want to be able to create more content for you guys as time goes on. I really enjoyed it, and I also want to build a community where all of us can, gather and talk about this kind of stuff together. Be really fun, so I hope to see you guys in the next video, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, Nath out.